What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show, Season 2, Episode 35. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Haverlack. Mark, we got absolutely nothing going on right now in this time of the year with the NHL. We were talking a bit here before the podcast. Really no big news. It's just a bunch of rumors and stuff, but what's keeping you busy this time of the year, dude?
Dude, it's been hard to stay busy at sometimes. I'm just kind of honestly doing some like prep work, getting ready with like rosters for next season. And honestly, in some free time in the future, I kind of just plan in diving into like the 2026 draft a little bit, seeing who some of the top guys are, to be honest. I know some of them obviously, but there's a lot more names that are coming out now that more than you kind of realize if you're like in the middle of last season and it's not like that year's draft. So I'm going to just try to get a little bit more familiar with the draft class, trying to enjoy the summer a bit. Been up at the cottage, going swimming, you know what I mean? Can't miss out on that. But what are you doing to keep him busy?
Man, so last week, dude, I had a terrible dilemma. Usually throughout the week, like I love listening to other hockey podcasts, right? Getting all the info. But at this point in the year, like some of the other podcasts, like 32 Thoughts, right? They're done for the year, so can't listen to them for the summer. Dude, I think it was like a Wednesday last week, and I'd literally listened to like every podcast that had been out, and I was like, holy shit, it's only Wednesday. What am I gonna do the rest of the week? Like, got nothing to listen to. I'm kind of in a bad scenario here. So I've been watching the Marvel movies. I started watching them a couple of years ago, but never really got through them all. So I'm starting watching them again now, and dude, I'm absolutely loving it. It's been a great time. Let's get into today's big news, though, or big news with us at least. We're going to be doing the deep dive episode number 2, so we got 4 more teams here that we're going to be talking about and doing deep dives on them. We'll get right into it with the Detroit Red Wings. After years of rumors, the Red Wings kicked off their offseason by acquiring John Gibson from the Anaheim Ducks. Mark, before we talk about the draft and how the rest of their team looks like, how do you feel about that trade for the Red Wings?
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit surprising considering like the end of last year, like at the deadline, they didn't really do anything, right? And then right at the end, they go and make the weird trade with the Hawks for Joe Veleno, for Craig Smith and Peter Mrazek. And I'm looking at that trade and I'm like, they already got Alex Lyon, who is just expiring at the end of the year, but Mrazek's got another year left on his deal, right? And I'm like, so next year, are they planning to do Talbot in Mrazek? Like that doesn't really seem like much of an upgrade of what they even had at the moment with Alex Lyon. Preferably, honestly, I like Alex Lyon a little bit better than Mrazek. So that confused me a bit. It does make sense that he's obviously involved in this trade to go to Anaheim, and I guess that's kind of how they did improve their goalie situation. I will say though, like, first of all, I'm a little bit biased when it comes to John Gibson, just because I don't really think he's as good as like the public perception kind of makes it out to be. I kind of think he was like an elite goalie, like kind of pre-COVID, where we were talking about him. If there was Olympics at the time, he would most likely be on the American team. And he was playing really good for the Ducks. They were still relevant for a little bit. You know what I mean? After winning the Cup, they still had pretty good teams. Went to the conference finals that year. I think it was 15 when the Hawks beat them, and then they won the Cup again. So I think John Gibson was a lot better kind of earlier in his career. The last couple of years, it's been a lot of below average goaltending mixed with him being really injured. But I will say last year, I feel like he rejuvenated his game a little bit. And I know he didn't play a whole ton, which had to do with injuries. And then obviously Lucas Dostal emerges at the same time, and he's wanting more minutes. And that's a big reason why this trade is even happening, right? Because Anaheim has their guy. So I'm trying to say it is an upgrade, but I just think I have a feeling there's going to be at least 2 times this year where he's going to be out with injury. And I don't know how long it's going to be. And then it's going to be Cam Talbot and then someone you're calling up from the minors, probably Sebastian Cossa, to get him more NHL experience, like a first-round pick from a couple years ago that they made. I will say, like, I do look at their goaltending this year, and I'm like, it's better. And I think it's a pretty good tandem overall. Like, I'd say it's about league average. Like, it's not bad, it's not great, but I think it becomes a concern when we talk about how injured John Gibson has been. And it's a big cap hit. Like they didn't retain, right? I honestly, I probably would have done it too if I was Detroit, because there was nothing else really available, and you did get rid of Mrazek's contract, so it's like maybe if Anaheim wanted to get a first, they could have retained, and they got a second Mrazek, and I think there was another pick involved as well or something. But yeah, I'm a little bit concerned because it's a high AAV and he's just been injured a lot, and he was good last year, but he also wasn't a starter last year. So I don't know. I think you're honestly going to like Cam Talbot's going to be a huge factor in next season. Like, I'm not really looking at Cam Talbot and I'm like, yeah, he's going to play like 30 games and like he's just got to be a pretty decent backup. I more look at it and I'm like, I honestly think Cam Talbot will probably, because of Gibson's injuries, might be playing 50 games.
Yeah, I could see it for sure being like a straight tandem where they're each like within like 5 games of each other.
And to be honest with you, like, Cam Talbot was not bad last year. Like, he wasn't a bad goalie, and he's been a pretty decent goalie. I just think that everywhere Cam Talbot goes, everyone's like, he's our guy. And it's like, he's just not the guy. You know what I mean? But he's a good goalie. Like, people think he sucks, and I don't agree at all. I think he's like I honestly look at Cam Talbot and I think he's very relatable to like Jake Allen.
Yep.
So it's like, I think you're good if you're in a tandem with him, but it's like, if he's your number one guy, I'm pretty concerned about it. Like, he did it a couple years ago in LA, and obviously he kind of was last year too. But with LA, it's like their defense was so good, they can make him play really well, right? And I know he's older now, but I just think that people look at Cam Talbot and they're like, he's not good. And it's like, I don't know. I don't really agree. He's not very good when he plays 50 plus games is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and there's a lot of goalies around the league that are like that, right? Like, that's what separates the good goalies from the great goalies, is the great goalies can take on that load in today's game and play the 55, 60 games of the season and be good throughout them all, right? For me, when I look at this trade, honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of it. Like, you're bringing Gibson. I agree with you that they got better, but you're bringing Gibson back, who has a somewhat of a high cap hit, and you're getting 2 years of him before he comes off this deal. And when you look at the Red Wings, you already got Coase and you got Augustine in the pipeline, right? So it's like you're giving up a second and a fourth round pick for a goalie that you might not have past 2 years, or probably won't be your starter past 2 years, because at some point Kosa or Augustine, one of those two guys, is going to come up and probably be their 1A. Like, are you kind of looking at that as well and being like, what's Gibson's sort of shelf life with this team?
Not really, because the way I look at it is Cam Talbot's actually expiring after this season. When I look at their cap, I thought he got a 3-year deal. He only had a 2-year deal, and he's already been on 1 year. So, like, I honestly think if Coase has a pretty good season in Grand Rapids, like, he's probably looking at being in the NHL in 26, 27. So it's like they're probably looking at it as 26, 27. We're going to run Gibson with Coase, and then Augustine would probably be signing at the end of next season. And then they're not putting him in the NHL right away. Yeah. And because they're taking their time with Coase even, right? Like, he had a pretty good year in Grand Rapids. Like, some teams might be like, after him having a good year, being like, oh, he's ready. But, like, I think it's good. Like, dude, you can even see from experiencing yourself with Dustin Wolf. We were saying he was ready a year earlier than he got the chance to be in the NHL. Honestly, I still believe it to this day, but they decided to leave him in the NHL another year, and you can't say it wasn't the wrong decision at the end of the day. So I look at it, and I'm like, there's no point of rushing Coase. Because also, if you're going into this season with Talbot and Coase, it would be a massive question mark still. It's like you're trying to, like, Steve Yzerman's job's on the line, basically. Yeah. You're trying to make the playoffs, and as much as he has made some good draft picks that haven't made an appearance in the NHL yet, that I believe, like, he's not going to risk his job on Sebastian Coase being a good tandem goalie with Cam Talbot next season. I don't believe that. So it's like the year after next, when it's Coase and Gibson, it's like, if Gibson's not really working out, then he can be gone after that offseason, right? So it's not really a long commitment. The one thing I would ask you, though, is, okay, if you don't really like this move, what would you have done? Or would it have changed your mind if Steve? Because to be honest with you, I don't believe for 1 second giving up a second, a fourth, and dumping Peter Mrazek's contract is a bad trade for the Detroit Red Wings. I just don't see it. I think the upgrade on the goaltender while getting rid of a $4 million cap hit on a goalie who's probably worth like less than half of that in Mrazek, like I don't believe that's a bad deal for Detroit getting out of that deal. But would you have either A, got someone else or went a different route, or B, would you have added another asset on to get Gibson at $3.2 million?
See, I would have rather added another asset on, because like I get the whole you're dumping Mrazek, but you're really only saving about $2 million there, right? With the cap hits. Gibson's making just over $6 million.
True, but it's like realistically, dude, like Gibson is like Gibson, like I wouldn't say it's like a net positive that he's a $6 million goalie, because I'd probably say he's like a $4 million goalie, but like I would say like Mrazek is legit. Like I'd be paying him under $2 million.
Like for me, when I look at this move, like I don't hate it. I just find it a bit confusing, because when you look at the Red Wings, like do you really think this is a team that should be going all out to get a goaltender?
But did they really go all out though, dude? Like it's a second round pick. Like it's a dart at the board, dude. Like it's not a first round pick. Like they've made so many draft picks, man. Like I get what you're saying. It's like ideally I probably wouldn't have wanted to go after John Gibson, but I just like. It was either what was the option? Hope Jake Allen gets to free agency, and then you have Jake Allen, Cam Talbot. Like, to be honest, Jake Allen wouldn't have been making $1.8 million either. Like, right? So it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I kind of agree in your sense. Like it's not like the greatest like thing for Detroit to do, but I seriously think this was their best option. Like, who was everyone talking about a couple weeks ago? It was John Gibson. It was Demko if he wasn't going back to Vancouver. And there was Jake Allen. And then what? Maybe if you want Merzlikins, that's a reclamation project. Like, I'd way prefer Gibson, to be quite honest with you, right? And it's like, I don't know. And then the only other guys I think that are potentially available, like maybe fucking Stuart Skinner, like depending what kind of trade you want to make with Edmonton. And then it's like, maybe like Sam Ersson in Philly. Like, what are your real other options? Like, I don't think many goalies are available. Seelovs, I guess, but that's still a huge question mark. Like, he was basically traded for what Daniil Tarasov was traded for to Florida. Like, even Caden Primo was traded for less. Like, those guys aren't going for a lot, but like, if you really want to rely on one of those guys as like one of your NHL goalies, like, I'm not saying they're not capable of doing it, but you can't say that you're not like throwing a dart at the board, hoping that Artur Seelovs is going to be a good NHL goalie next year. Like, there's no guarantee in it.
No, that's fair. I just would have liked to seen them maybe go a different direction and add to the team in another way. Just considering you have Kosa and Augustine coming up in the pipelines. You mentioned though that Detroit, they already got a lot of young prospects. They added through the draft. They took Carter Bear with their first pick, 13th overall. Looking at their draft, Mark, do you think that a good draft?
Yeah, I actually would be pretty happy with Detroit's draft overall. Ended up getting Carter Bear with their pick early on at 13. I was kind of hyping him up a lot before the draft, saying that I thought he probably could have been a guy in the top 10 if he didn't get injured this year. And then there was concerns about his injury being like a long-term thing, almost like what Caden Lindstrom's going through, but it came out that wasn't really a concern. So he kind of went up the list a bit after being like possibly around 10. Then he was in the 20s, and then he ends up obviously going kind of mid to early teens there. So I really like Carter Bear. I think like comparables to him are like Zach Hyman, Brandon Hagel. He's kind of like a gritty player who is smaller at the same time. Like he's only 6', 179, but I think he's a guy that we're going to be talking about in this draft class in the future, probably a couple years outside. Developing still before he makes the NHL. I don't think there's any reason to rush him if you are Detroit, but I think this is a really good pickup for Detroit. And I'm going to be honest with you, I think that he is actually going to be like a good top 6 forward in the future. I really believe it. Just think the way that his playing style is going to translate really well, and he's very skilled at the same time. That's why I look at him and I look at just like Brandon Hagel, Seth Jarvis kind of player. And I think he's going to be putting up like 65 plus points a season.
Yeah, no, I love that pick too for the Red Wings. Like when you look at the Red Wings and some of the forwards they already have, I think Bear is going to complement them really well. Like him playing with a Raymond or a DeBrincat, being able to be a bit more feisty and win some puck battles and get the puck to those maybe more skilled players. I think he could really thrive in this Red Wings lineup at some point.
There are other picks where like not bad either. Like the last 3 guys in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, I have no familiarity on, but like Eddie Genborg is like a pretty decent player who played a lot of games in the SHL this year. He didn't really produce a lot, but he's a bigger body and could be like a pretty impactful bottom 6 forward. Brent Solomon played in the USHL a little bit near the end of the year, but he was playing like prep hockey. He's pretty decent, like 6'2", 205, kind of more like a power forward type style. But I actually really like their 4th round pick, Michael Sverchek. He played in like Sweden's junior league this year for Brynäs and put up like a point per game. He is like a 5'11" guy, but he's kind of like one of those like mid-round picks who's like smaller that has like a lot of skill. And he's playing, I believe, for Brynäs in the SHL next year. So I think he's a guy to note of if you're like a Red Wings fan, for sure. He's probably like a guy, you never really know if it works out with those guys, but sometimes it does, right? So I just think getting him in the 4th round is like pretty good value for the Red Wings. And then they took a goalie as well, who I was like pretty high on as well, Michael Prattle. He went in the 3rd round. He played for Tri-City this year. They weren't really the greatest team. He had like an .899 save percentage, but he's a huge guy, dude. Like he reminds me of Michael Rabel. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah,
he was at the World Juniors the last couple of years for Czechia. He's a big body. I think Prattle's going back to the USHL, I believe, for one more year, and then he's going to college. But that's another goalie for the Red Wings, dude. They're like they got a lot of goalies in their pipeline. We talked about Kosa. You mentioned Augustine a little bit. They drafted another guy in 2023, Rudy Guimond. He played a little bit, I think, in the USHL last year. And then once that rule changed, he went to Moncton. Dude, he went 16-0 with Moncton to end the season, and that .940 save percentage. But he wasn't really the starter. Like in the Memorial Cup, he only played a couple games. He was more in like a tandem role with, I think it was Rousseau. Matthias Rousseau. But dude, he played unbelievable. And I think he's going back to Moncton next year because Rousseau is an overager, and then he's going to college. So it's like, I don't know. Like I wasn't really super high on him after the draft, but it's like, dude, he was playing like really well. So dude, that's like 4 goalies in the pipeline that it seems like a couple of them I think have really high upside in Kosa and Augustine, but like these other 2 guys now, it's like, man, they might be able to like get some good assets for like these guys, if you know what I mean. And it's like maybe 1 or 2 of these guys don't work out, but it's like even if 2 don't work out, like you've got 2 still, right? So I think Yzerman's done a really good job, like with drafting goalies. That's the one thing I will say about him. He's done a really good job recently at drafting goalies.
Yeah, I think overall for their drafts recently, they've had some good drafts, and you're starting to see some of these players starting to make their lineup. And Yzerman even said that this year that he wants to see some of these players starting to get more opportunities in the lineups, which is part of why they didn't add a whole ton via trade or free agency. So let's take a look at their lineup right now, Mark.
Yeah, dude. When I look at this Detroit lineup, like they obviously didn't change it a whole ton, at least as of right now. I still feel like that Yzerman's probably out there like actively looking on making this team better, to be quite honest. And I feel like he will be actually willing to use some of the prospect pool to get better if the opportunity's out there. But honestly, before we kind of get into the lineup a bit, like, do you not think a lot of teams are like just waiting because they think they're going to be good, and then like there might be a lot of trades at the beginning of the season, like maybe like 15 games into the season when some teams are like shit, and like you know what I mean? Like some of these teams thinking, oh, maybe we can be good, and then they're not good.
Oh,
Like I feel like a team like Detroit is going to like maybe try to take advantage of that. You know, like maybe like Seattle, like they think they can be good, and then like they're shit after 20 games, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna trade Marchman, and you know what I mean?
dude, when you have McKenna, I think for sure teams are going to be selling earlier this year.
Yeah, because Pittsburgh's really the only team selling right now, right? And I think
Yeah.
Rust and Raquel's prices are pretty high. But like getting back to their lineup, Detroit, I think will try to capitalize on that when the time is right if they feel like they have holes. But honestly, dude, I don't really mind this lineup. I think another year of development from like some of these guys like Raymond. And like honestly, I think one breakout player this year that I am really keeping an eye on is Marco Casper. And I think that's why Detroit is not like actively trying to trade for a second line center, because I think that they believe that he could be the guy. And I think he can too. Once Todd McClellan came in last year, I think I saw something like he had like 21 points in like 36 games or something, like, so starting to really like kind of find his NHL groove and like take off near the end of that season. So I'm kind of curious to see what kind of level can he produce at, like dude, if you're getting the same amount of production from like everybody, and then like Casper takes a jump to like, honestly, dude, I'm thinking maybe 50 points for Casper.
He had 37 last year, so I think.
Oh, dude, maybe I'm thinking maybe 50, 55.
Yeah.
If everyone, like if Kopp is healthy, I don't mind the Appleton addition, to be honest with you. I think that's pretty reasonable money for Mason Appleton. JVR is still a pretty effective player. I think he can provide some good depth for the Red Wings. Kind of curious to see what their defense turns out to be. Is Axel Sandin Pellikka making the team right away? Is he going to play in the AHL for a little bit? What's kind of the plan with him there? I think ideally they really wanted to go after Aaron Ekblad, but that obviously didn't really turn out. Their defense as of right now is still pretty soft, in my opinion, outside of Edvinsson and Seider. Like it's Sherratt, like Johansson, Gustafsson, Justin Hall. They lost Petrie. Like, I don't know. It's not really much better. Even if Sandin Pellikka makes the team, like unless he really has a massive rookie year, like it's really not much better in my opinion. And then we talked about the goaltending for a while already, about it's still a huge question mark in our opinion. So I don't know. Like ideally, like I think they're kind of a bit better than last year, but I don't really think as of right now, like they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to compete for a spot.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like, I think they're better. Looking at their forward group, I agree with you, dude. I love this Casper kid. Last year, 37 points as a 21-year-old, right? Like, what kind of other step is he going to be able to take?
Top 10 pick, dude.
I'm looking at Nate Danielson. I wonder where he's going to be. Like, could he potentially be a guy that cracks a lineup and gets an opportunity? Because if he is and he's playing well, like that could be interesting and kind of shake up the lineup a little bit there. I'm all with you on their defense core though. Like Edvinsson Seider, I love that pairing. Two absolute giants. Sandin Pellikka, I'm really interested to see what he's going to be able to do with his first year in the NHL. I would like to see him get a better pairing though than Ben Sherratt. Like right now we got Ben Sherratt, Sandin Pellikka as their second pairing. I think Ben Sherratt at this point in his career, like he should be a guy that's playing on your third pairing. And if they could get a second pairing left-hand shot defenseman, I think it could change that decor a fair bit. Because if you get that and then Sandin Pellikka kind of has an impressive rookie year, like that could be a complete 360 from where the Red Wings were last season. Like, would you agree with that or no?
Yeah, I think they kind of need like I think Sandin Pellikka probably will make the team, but or no, I think he should make the team. I don't know if he's gonna make the team, but I think they're kind of like two defensemen away. Like I think they're like a top 4 left-hand D guy and probably a bottom pairing guy, like maybe even like a right-handed D or like, well, ideally you could say right now they need a top 4 guy, like lefty and righty on both sides. But I'm just more envisioning like Sandy and Pelika is going to like slide into there eventually, right?
Yeah.
But I think they need a guy on the left and the right side, to be honest with you. Ideally, I would just say like, yeah, a top 4 left-hand D, and then like a right-handed defenseman, probably more like a number 5 guy. I kind of look at them though, and it's like outside, like Seider is pretty physical. Like Sherrod is pretty mean and nasty, but it's like if it's Sandin Pellikka, Eric Gustafsson, Albert Johansson, Jacob Bernard Docker, or Justin Hall, like it's like I'm not really that scared to play against that. The first pair kind of scares me, but like it's just like there's not really a lot of like there's no one guy that I'm like really terrified of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's where maybe like you can swap out Sherrod and get somebody there on your second pairing to pair with Pellikka, especially considering Sandin Pellikka is like a very offensive-minded defenseman. Like if you could pair him with a more of a shutdown, tough guy, throwing the body around there on that like, second pairing left-hand side, I think that'd be a great mix.
You know what I honestly do if I'm Stevie Y? Like after 15, 20 games, Seattle's bad, I'm calling them and I'm saying, what do you want for Jamie Alexiak?
Yep.
That's the type of guy I'd want to bring into the team, to be honest, because he's pretty good defensively as well. I honestly think he'd probably come in and be their third best defenseman, and that's pretty sad. But he's the type of player they definitely need, right? I'm not looking forward to playing Jamie Alexiak, dude. As much as he's not the best defenseman in the world, it's like I don't really want to play against that guy, dude. He's gonna beat the shit out of me. So that's the type of player I'm looking for if I'm Detroit, to be honest. I kind of like their forward core for the most part. Like it doesn't necessarily like scare me in the sense that like Raymond's a great player, like, and he's turning into an elite player. I guess he more senses the guy that scares me right now. Obviously, you always got to be weary of Patrick Kane. Be aware of Patrick Kane. I mean, DeBrincat's still a really good player, but and Dylan Larkin as well, right? But I don't know. I'm not really that optimistic about this team, to be honest, in the sense of compared to last year. And it's not like a lot of teams have changed anyway. I guess it just really depends, like how good will these top guys be that are like at the top of the lineup? Like, will they get depth scoring? I think they've made some of the right moves. Like I like JVR fourth line ad. Like if he can get you 15 to 20 goals, maybe 20 might be a bit of a stretch, but like 15 goals, like second power play guy, I don't mind that for 1 million. I don't really think they're probably looking to do much up front right now. Like I know there's been a couple like talks about like Comper going somewhere in a trade. I'm assuming that's more to like free up cap, and maybe to bring someone else in. I don't know, but and kind of because like he's more of a center, right? And it's like the way their lineup's constructed with Casper starting to emerge, it's like he's kind of a winger now, unless you're throwing Kopp on the wing. But so maybe it's just like maybe he wants to play center and he's not. I don't really know what the relationship is there, but he's still a pretty decent player, right? But I don't know. Like, do you think they're going to be finishing like where they were last year right now? Like maybe improving their point total a little bit? Like I still have a lot of question marks about this team, dude. Unless they just get huge development.
That's the thing for me is when I look at this team, like they're very similar to the way they were last year. For sure, they got an upgrade in their goal, but it's like how much of is that enough of an upgrade to push them into the playoffs? I don't think it is. Like I think they're probably going to finish somewhere around where they finished last year, maybe improve a bit. But when I look at this team, if the goaltending completely pans out and you're getting like John Gibson, what he was early on in Anaheim, and these young guys take a step and like you're getting like if Sandin Pellikka can have a rookie year where he's at 40 points, if Casper can be at the 50 to 60 point marker, like even if Danielson can come in and he can have a big impact in their bottom six, like then maybe at that point I can see them making the playoffs. But I just think that's a lot to ask for from too many guys, right? I got bit in the ass doing this with Buffalo last year. I said Buffalo was going to make the playoffs because I thought all those young guys were going to take steps, and that really bit me in my ass. So I'm going to say the Red Wings don't make the playoffs next year, and they kind of finish where they're at right now. Mark, I want to ask you though, what do you give their offseason grade?
Including the draft or no?
Including the draft.
Well, I think on the last episode you asked me what the draft grade was individually. So I'll answer that first. I'd probably give them like a B plus on their draft. To be honest, I think they got pretty good value. I just don't know about those bottom three guys. That's why, and I don't really know much about them, which makes me think they're not really like steals. In accordance to off season, I'd probably say their off season was like a B.
Yeah, I would think for me, I'm going to give their offseason a B minus. I just think.
Do you think it's just not enough?
Yeah, I just think it's not enough for a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for so long. For Stevie Y, who's been there for a decent amount of time now, and he's not on the hot seat, but like if the Red Wings don't make the playoffs this year, like he's a guy that really will be on the hot seat at that point. I just don't think they quite did enough to be a team that's like, yeah, like I think they're like for sure going to make the playoffs, right?
So yeah, I'd say like the offseason B, draft B plus. I'll just go with a B overall.
B and B minus.
I'm honestly like I wouldn't like they're a bit better. Kane contract's good. Appleton contract's good. I like JVR. I like Gibson considering what's available. Their D is still not good enough. The thing is, if they go out and like trade for a D, like in the offseason, it's like I might be, depending who it is and what they give up, like I might be flirting at their off seasons like an A minus, like depending what it is, right? So it's like I don't think B minus is like I'm not really that like upset with their off season. Like it is leaving me want a bit more, but that's why it's like a B and not an A.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. For me, it's also partially just where the state of the team's at, right? It's like if you're like just with them being out of the playoffs for so long, Stevie Y really not having that major success yet with the team. I got to give them a B minus. It could change though if they do add a defenseman, maybe add a bottom six forward, then it would change. But I'm going to give them a B minus for now. Let's stay in the Eastern Conference. The Philadelphia Flyers, they might have had one of the busiest off seasons out of every team so far. In this year's draft, they had 6 picks in the first 2 rounds. Mark, let's start off by talking about their draft. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting because like overall, I'm actually like their draft picks, but I'm really confused at their second draft pick in Jack Nesbitt. That's what makes me. I'm just kind of like, what? It doesn't really make much sense. There was nothing really indicating that he was going to go that high. Considering that, dude, he is a beast. Like I've seen him live. You've seen him live. He is an effective player. He's huge. I will say though, I just am very question the talent at the NHL level in accordance to producing points. I don't know what he's going to be exactly. I think it's still really up in the air. My projection right now is that like he's probably hitting 50 points a couple times, but I think he's morely like a 30 to like 45 point scorer. Like I think he's more going to be a bottom 6 player than a top 6 player, to be quite honest with you. So that's what really confuses me, considering they also traded up with their rival Pittsburgh to make that pick. I don't know if they had some insight that he was going to get picked in the next couple of picks before they had what? I think it was 22nd overall they had through one of the trades. I think it was Colorado's pick, to be honest with you, in the Sean Walker trade last year. Like that was their pick, right? So I think they could have got him there. Like I had him I think I had him going 27th because I thought this draft isn't great. At the end of the first round, you're getting bottom 6 players, maybe third liners, right? But I just don't really understand the pick. A lot of people had him even outside of the first round. But I will say them getting Porter Martone, really good pick. Honestly, though, would you have went with Hagens if you were Philly? Or is it do you just think Martone fits the Philly vibe so well that you shouldn't pass up on it? Because it's they do have Michkov and Martone for the next decade.
I would have gone with Martone. I think Hagens is the more skilled player, but I think Martone's maybe the more complete player. I think when you look at Philly and what they're kind of wanting to build, they got some size now with their forward group, right? Going with Nesbitt and Martone with your first 2 picks, and then even Michkov, he's pretty built, right?
Yeah, he's small, but he's pretty big. I think he's 5'11" or 6 foot, but he's pretty built. And obviously he's not the greatest defensively and isn't the grittiest player, but I mean, he can develop into that, right? I think that's a huge area of development for Michkov.
I definitely like what they're doing here, taking guys with size. I agree with you on the whole Nesbitt thing. I think it was a reach. Most mock drafts, I think the earliest I saw him going was maybe late teens, and he was more somewhere around the somewhere in the 20s. So I think it was a bit of a reach. I don't know how I feel about it though, because on one hand, it is a reach, but on the other hand, I think his floor's a bit higher maybe than some guys within this draft.
Okay, but you're telling me that okay, screw the center aspect of it, because it's you could have addressed that in the top 10. Dude, I'm sorry. Victor Eklund is on the board and you're taking Jack Nesbitt. I just think I just don't agree with that. I don't know. It just doesn't really make much. And I know he's a smaller guy, but it's just a high skill aspect. And it's something you don't even have a ton of it in your organization right now. I'm sorry. As much as taking a gamble on Zegras is I think a good idea, and he has high skill, but I don't know what type of player he's going to be. And Michkov is the future, and he's going to be a great player, but it's I still need to take gambles on high skill if I'm Philadelphia. And I get they did it with Martone, but it's there was someone else available too, right? So I just personally don't understand it. I just think Philly, they don't just have a need at center. They have a need for defensemen and the need for a goalie. They need every position, right? So I don't know. Their draft makes me the most I'm honestly having trouble even thinking of I know you're gonna ask me what's their rating. I don't even know yet. It's kind of up in the air, because I do like the other picks. For people that don't know, starting with Martone, 6'3", their other picks 6'5", 6'5", 6'1", 6'3", 6'5", 2 guys at 5'11", and then another defenseman at 6'5". Yeah. So they really tried to address size in this draft. I like I don't mind the Carter Amico pick. He is going to be, I think, a solid third pairing shutdown defenseman. And I don't really have a problem with them taking that at 38th overall, because I think he's projected to go around that area anyway. And I think he's got a really high floor, to be honest. I just don't think he has much offensive upside, which limits him a lot, right? Dude, Shane Van Saggy, I thought he was potentially going to go in the first round. He played NCAA this year, dude, and he's a big guy. Sorry, I was looking at another guy. He's 6'3", 212. I thought I was 6'1", 198. But yeah, dude, he was pretty good for Michigan State last year. He's going back as well. Think about producing points, 16 points in 37 games. So sometimes guys like that go late in the first round and he's a big body. So I think they got some pretty good value picks. Even Max Westergaard in the 5th round. I thought he was going to go probably in the top 3 rounds as well. So I'm pretty familiar with most of their picks, and I think they had a pretty good draft overall. It's just the Nesbitt thing confuses me a lot.
I agree. It does confuse me, but I think just overall with the draft this year, how it was, I don't hate it as much as maybe I would in other years, especially considering like it's Philadelphia. Next year they're probably going to be picking pretty high as well, and it's like maybe Philadelphia's looking at it where it's like, okay, next year that's where we're going to go out and we're going to get like our real number one centerman for the future, right? Mark,
Maybe.
you said you have no clue what you want to give them their draft grade. I'm going to ask you though, what do you think a draft grade for them is?
Honestly, thinking about it a bit more, like I guess I'm pretty happy about their draft overall. So I'm gonna go with a B plus.
B
But I
plus.
think the Nesbitt pick like really drains it a lot for me. And maybe not taking Higgins over Martone. I guess we'll see about that. I have them similarly projected though, but I still think they lack a 1C. I think unless they do think they're getting a center, a high end center in the draft next year, they're literally betting on right now either Nesbitt, Jet Luchenko, or Zegras becoming their first line center in the future.
Yeah, which is not the greatest. You've talked about Trevor Zegras a few times here, Mark. Of course, the Flyers over the offseason, they've reunited Trevor Zegras and his BFF, Jamie Drysdale. How do you feel about the trade for the Flyers? Do you like the trade? Because to be honest, I love it.
Yeah, I think it's a great gamble if you're Philly. Like we were just talking about, they don't really have a lot of centermen within the organization for the future and even for the present, right? Like when you're looking at their center depth, we'll talk about them going out and getting Dvorak, but like they also have Sean Couturier locked up for a pretty long time, and they re-signed Noah Cates before the offseason as well, right? So they don't, and there's not a lot of centers available at the same time. Like they got one of the most highly coveted centers on the market this offseason.
Yeah.
I like the gamble bringing him in. I don't really think you gave up a whole lot considering the amount of draft picks that they made, right? They had 2 in the first round, 4 in the second round. And then they had like 2 fifths and a sixth. Like they gave up a second round pick in the Zegras deal that was in that draft. So it's like all that was another dart at the board, realistically, right? And that was basically either that second round pick or Paling was the best asset that was given back to Anaheim, plus a pick in the later rounds. So I think this was a really sell low scenario for Anaheim. And I think for Philly, there's really no. I look at it and I'm just like, even if he's terrible, like if he's putting up like 30 points or 40 points, like I still don't even look at it as like the trade is that bad. Like, to be honest with you, like the trade is only upside for Philly, in my opinion. Like the better he is, the more they're winning the trade. And it's like, even if he's like a third line center, like for the next 5 years, like assuming they re-sign him and stuff, it's like, I don't know. It still just seems to me like that's a fair trade. Like I don't really look at this ever and I'm like, Anaheim won this trade because unless Paling becomes a freaking stud or something. But do you get what I'm saying though?
Oh no, I completely agree with you on that, dude. Like I think probably the best asset in going back was the second round pick, and like when you're looking at the Flyers, like dude, they already had 6 picks within the first 2 rounds that they made this year. Like, are you really gonna have 7? So it's like, as you say, it's a shot at the dartboard, these picks, right? And you're essentially giving one of your 7 shot at the dartboards for a Trevor Zegras, who's a guy that we all know what his upside is. Yeah, he is a shot at the dartboard as well, but he's also a guy that can fit in your lineup tomorrow and be playing in this lineup. So it's like, what's more valuable, a shot at the dartboard that's maybe going to crack your lineup in 2-3 seasons, or a shot at the dartboard with arguably higher potential than a late second round pick and a guy that can fit in your lineup right now? Like I love it for the Flyers. I think it's only upside, as you mentioned. And the thing I love too is for Trevor Zegras, like this is going to be a guy now in Philadelphia where he's going to be getting a lot of opportunity. When we're looking at Philadelphia's lineup that we have slotted down for next year, he's going to be playing in their top 6. He's probably going to be getting first power play time, right? Like this is a guy that might be playing with Matvey Michkov and Owen Tippett. Like that's That's a massive upgrade for what he was getting in Anaheim. How do you think he's going to do in this lineup, Mark?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Philly's like their power play has been like lacking like a player like Zegras, I think, right? So I'm curious to see like how impactful he actually like can be on it, right? Like I think he's going to be
Yeah.
relied upon a ton. Like I don't know, like I feel like he might hit like 50 points. Like I don't know if he's going to get back to exactly where he was, but like he has like really not been producing the last couple seasons, right? Like with
Yeah.
injuries and stuff as well. But I don't know, maybe the best can come out of him. I don't really know if we should expect that right away. Maybe it's like it's a young player, right? And it could take a while to kind of get back and gain that confidence. Because at the same time, it's like he's going to get a lot of hard matchups, right?
Yeah, he will
And
be.
it's not going to be easy for him. So I'm just kind of curious, like how he's going to be able to handle that. Does being on a new team just kind of rejuvenate him? I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, I think being on a new team is going to completely rejuvenate him. The other thing too is he's in a contract year as well, so he's gonna be looking to prove himself, and I think like when I'm looking at it, the amount of skill that this guy's going to be playing with now, I think it's hard to imagine that he's not going to have at least 50 points next year if he can stay healthy. I think realistically, maybe if he's anywhere from 55 to like 65, Philadelphia's probably pretty pretty happy with that. Pardon me, but looking at the rest of their lineup, I think I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of guys here that are going to be looking to prove themselves. And when you look at Philadelphia, how many guys they kind of have in the system, especially considering all the picks they had in this draft, how many guys that they kind of have in the system over the past few years, I think there's going to be a lot of competition within this lineup and a lot of guys wanting to prove themselves for the future. Because right now, when you look at guys that are there long term for the future, on their forward group at least, it's Sean Couturier, Travis Konechny, Owen Tippett. After that, nobody has a contract out over 3 years, pardon me, right? So for guys like Jet Luchenko, Bobby Brink, like Forster, Zegras, like all those guys are going to be wanting to prove that they deserve long-term contracts and want to be part of that team for the long term. Because at some point with Philadelphia, like when you have Porter Mortone coming up, when you have some of these other younger guys coming up, like you're gonna get in a scenario where you're gonna have an odd man out, right? And I think that it's gonna cause a lot of internal battle for the Flyers. How do you kind of feel about their forward group so far, though?
Yeah, I kind of agree where it's like it is a prove it year for a lot of them. So it's like,
Yeah,
is it kind of going to be like, are they going to thrive, or is it going to be kind of like a simulation or a similar situation to like some of like with Buffalo's prospects where they still have upside, but like they're not really developing that well, right? I think there is a lot of talent there, and I think that like you can say like a couple of years ago, dude, like they were in a playoff spot most of the season until they kind of fell out of it, right? So their young talent, I think, can be really good. It's just kind of getting back to that level for some of them and like getting to a next level for like some of the others, right? And I think you're right. There's going to be a ton of competition to make this team this year, especially because Tyson Forrester is probably out to start the season because he got injured in
yeah,
off-season training. So that kind of opens a spot up in the top 9, in my opinion. I honestly would have had him penciled in the top 6 on the wing if he didn't get hurt. Like he had 20 goals last year, I think. He signed a decent ticket in the offseason as well. So yeah, I think I'm kind of curious to see like is Jet Luchenko making this team like he did last year? I kind of think he is now, especially with Forster out. Like there's been talks about Martone signing right away and playing. I don't know, it's probably either that or him going to college, I would think. I don't know. I kind of think that they should go out and get a forward. I'm talking like minor trade for like a
yeah,
depth player. maybe even if the team is willing to give if it's a bad contract, that's maybe even a year or something to plug it in. Because I just don't think that Martone should be playing, and I don't think they really have a great replacement for him in accordance to like a depth player, unless they want to go out and like sign someone for like 1 year. Like I would also be open to that if I were them, but I don't think they should be like rushing and being like, all right, let's get Martone in with this core right away. Because I'm not even that like stoked about getting Luchenko in there right away, to be quite honest with you. And it's like right now it's if it, Porter Martone could make the team on forward. Anthony Richard, Rodrigo Aballs, who played some games at the end of last year. Like they do have some prospects in the system, like Massimo Rizzo. Jack Berglund's probably spending the season in Sweden still. Like I'm kind of curious, like maybe Alex Bump takes that spot. Like he was at Western Michigan last year and he's like got a really pro ready game. But like, honestly, I'd probably ideally want to start him in the A. So it's like, I would go out and try to get like some cheap player that could probably just fill the role. And it's like, even if like Bump plays 20 games in the minors and you're like, oh shit, he's pretty good, he can play in the NHL, then it's kind of whatever if you call him up and you're maybe like scratching that guy or whatever, right? So I kind of think that's the approach that the Phillies should take instead of like getting Martone and Luchenko in this lineup along with like literally like more than half of your like 75% of your forwards are young, minus like your fourth line and like Konechny, Couturier. Like they got Dvorak this offseason. Like half their forward core is like very young, right? And it's like adding in a 19-year-old and then an 18-year-old onto that right in a way. It's like I just don't think that's a good idea. And I think that's kind of a recipe for getting absolutely like buried. Like, you know what I mean? It's like some nights, because a lot of teams aren't going to be like aren't looking to be bad next year. And I think they're like some teams are bad, but I think that a lot of teams could probably take advantage of Philly, like with that kind of lineup, to be honest. So I just think Martone should go to college for at least probably a year. Maybe if he's nasty, you can sign him like at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I just don't think like signing him and playing him is really a good option. I didn't think it was with Luchenko last year. And I think like he really didn't like have a whole spot where like he's like in the NHL and then he's back to Guelph and then he's in the AHL on a playoff run where like he didn't even produce much with Lehigh Valley. It's like, I don't know. I was like, maybe you can get him to the A next year. I'd probably put him in the A if there's the exception with that rule. But if not, I think he should go back to the O, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, and like I do love the internal battle that you have with young players for some of these teams, but you like if you're the Flyers, you also do have to find that fine line of like what's the right mix of having that internal battle, but also not having too many young guys up where it's like you're taking minutes away and you're taking away development plans for some of those younger guys, right? So if you're Philly, like you kind of want to be able to balance the two and don't get into a situation like the Sabres have where you just have so many young guys, none of them are developing because they're all not in the greatest scenarios.
Like, you know who I would go out right now and sign if I was Philly? Like, I really don't know what the contracts they'd be like looking at. I would go. If I was Philly, I'd go to Robbie Fabry and I'd be like, here's a 1 year, $2 million deal. Right now, you can probably slot in our third line since Forrester's injured, and just give him a shot. Like I like that's the kind of move I would make where it's like all right, you can plug this guy in. Maybe it turns out where he's good. If he's shit, who gives a crap? Like it's 1 year, right? So then you don't have to rush your young players straight to the NHL.
Yeah, but that's also potentially a guy like trade deadline. If you're Philly and you're retaining 50%, like maybe there's teams that would be interested in adding Robbie Fabry to their bottom six if you're a playoff team. I want to look at their defenseman now, Mark, because this is probably my favorite story from the year. Cam York, who famously told John Tortorella, I'm going to be here longer than you. He re-signed in the offseason. So I'm liking it because he's basically telling Torts to fuck off, and he came out on top in that little battle. But looking at their decor, how are you liking it?
Yeah, it's no different than last year, minus kind of like if Noah Juleson takes his spot, they brought him in the offseason. I honestly think he really likes Tor or um uh, what the hell, Talkett. And I think Talkett liked him a lot in Vancouver, so that's probably a reason why he came over to Philly. And I actually think that's a reason why Dvorak did too, minus that contract was just stupid money for 1 year. But dude, apparently he turned down a 3-year deal. I don't know what team offered it to him, but he would have made more money overall in the 3-year deal. Like, I don't know if it was like 3 times 3 or 3 times like 2.5. He would have made more money, but he turned it down for the 1-year deal. I would too, to be honest. Dude, there was a joke that came out because he was minus Noah Juleson. He was the second fastest contract signed on July 1st. And everyone was making a joke that, you call Christian Dvorak, you're like, you want a 1-year, $5.4 million deal. You don't even have to negotiate with him. He's like, yep, I'll accept that. So it's believable that it would be signed like 2 minutes after free agency started. But like going to their D, like I don't mind it, but I do think it's kind of like sitting in the area of like below average right now.
Yeah.
I think they do have some interesting young defensemen. I actually like Cam York a lot. I feel like he's actually like not talked about enough as of the type of presence that he is. But like I do think that they are kind of lacking like a big name defensive prospect. Kind of, as much as like I do like Sanheim, and then like he's also probably not talked about enough in some aspects. Like it would have been nice if they could get like some elite defenseman prospect, to be quite honest with you, because I look at their D and it's like I don't think any of these guys really have like potential to be a number one defenseman. Like I think Sanheim kind of is what he is. Like he's probably like a number 2 on some teams. Like he's obviously kind of more like a number 1 on Philly, and he probably would be on a couple other teams, but he's ideally like a 2-3 in my opinion. Drysdale, I mean, he was picked really high. He's an incredible skater. Injuries has been a huge concern with him though. I kind of look at him more as like probably like a number 4 right now. But it's like, what is his ceiling really? I don't really know, to be honest with you, just because of the injuries. I know you're pretty high on him. And Cam York, I think he could probably be like a number 2 defenseman eventually. I don't really think he's ever gotten the opportunity. But I think at the same time, it's like, I don't know if it's ever really going to come out if he's playing behind Sanheim. There's been instances where they've both tried the right side because they're both left-handed, and it's like, right now, it's either Drysdale or Ristolainen on the right side. I think ideally, like if they could ship out Ristolainen, because I know like teams have been interested. If I were them, like I would probably entertain doing that, maybe even a little bit into the season if a team is like interested in a right-handed defenseman. I don't love 5.1, but if you are willing to retain like half of that, I don't mind Ristolainen at like 2.5, to be honest, to be like my second, third pairing defenseman. But yeah, and like their bottom pair, Juleson, Nick Seeler. I like Nick Seeler a lot. I'd probably keep him. He's a good vet. Emil Andre played like half the season with them last year, and like half the season with Lehigh Valley. He's kind of interesting. He's like a 5'11", like mobile defenseman. He's been like running the power play in Lehigh Valley. I don't really know how much room there is for him in Philly though, considering it's like you already have York and Sanheim on the left side. So I don't know. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement. They do have a couple pieces, but like there's nothing that really sticks out to me. Like I'd probably be rating it in the NHL around like 17th to 21st, 22nd. Yeah. Like I'm not very high on it, but I don't think it's like awful, to be honest. But it's kind of below average.
I'm with you on that. Like honestly, on their left-hand side, I do like Sanheim and York. I think their right side definitely could use some improvement. The big wild card though for me is Drysdale. Like I'm with you. I don't really know what his potential is with all the injuries, but I think there could maybe be some potential still left there. And if he can be healthy, it's gonna be interesting to see like what his what's he going to be going forward? Because it really is a prove it year for himself as well. He's got like this is the final year. He's going to be an RFA at the end of the year, right? So he's going to be looking for that big extension, and who knows
Yeah.
what he can do healthy, but like
I think
realistically,
that your contract is good though. Like they just signed that, like the
yeah,
5 times 5.1. I think that's a very good contract, to be honest.
I think York at worst is a number 4, and at best he could be a number 2 maybe at some point.
Like I think he's at least a number 4 right now.
Yeah, and it's like if you're paying that guy just over $5 million in, let's say, 3 years, when Philadelphia's maybe making the playoffs, trying to go on some playoff runs, like you're in a great position then.
Yeah, like he'll be in the top 4, no doubt.
Yeah.
And like he could play on the right side. I guess like their only real defensive prospect that stands out to me is like Oliver Bonk, but like it's like I'm not very high on him, to be quite honest with you. Like I don't think there's a chance he's going to become a top pair defenseman. I think at best he's a top 4 defenseman. So I don't know. I still think they're lacking like that true difference maker on defense.
Yeah, and I wonder if Philly's maybe a team that's looking at it like, hey, if we can maybe have two number 2s and 2 number 3 defensemen, like we'll take that over maybe having like a number 1 and like 2 3s and a 4, something like that. Looking at goaltender, I think they for sure got better in that too. They signed Vladar to a 2-year
Your
deal,
boy.
just over $3 million. I like it for man. It gives them, like last year they had a major goaltending issue with Arison and Fedotov, and now having Vladar, it's going to give them some stability there.
Do you think he's better than Sam Ersson?
Yeah, yeah. I'd say it's close. But I just think it's like having the 3 of them now. At least if one of them goes down, or if you have to move one down to the AHL or something, like you're not having to call up some young guy that shouldn't be in the NHL, right? Like
Alexei Kolosov.
yeah, like at least the way it is now, it's like it gives them some.
Yeah, like having that Fedotov and that contract is fucking terrible. Like he is not a good goalie, dude.
No.
I have never seen a goalie that is so big that like lets in so many bad goals in my life, to be honest with you. But yeah, like I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say I love Dan Vladar. I know I've kind of vocalized with you. I'm not the biggest fan. Like, I don't really see like his stats improving on a team like this, but like he could definitely provide some stability. I don't mind Sam Ersson. Like he has some of the worst like analytics in the NHL, but I also don't think that he has like the greatest team in front of him, and he's relied upon way too. You got to think too, like with Sam Ersson, like he's still very young. Like he's 25. He's already played a lot of NHL games, and he was basically forced into the situation because Carter Hart had to leave the team, right? And it's like, Sam Ersson, you're our guy, right? So he was kind of thrown into an unfair situation. So I'm kind of curious to see what they can do as a tandem individually, like being on 2 different teams last year. I'm not really that impressed with either of them. I'm kind of looking at it as like one of the worst tandems in the league right now, but dude, it's not like one of them can have a great season. Like we've seen it before. I just don't think individually either of them have been that good the past couple of years. But I'm happy Vladar got a good contract. He's going to get some more opportunity. He's still pretty young. He's a big body, right? So they're like the thing is too is like you got to understand. It's like they both probably, as much as they would never publicly admit it and say it, like they probably know like we're probably not making the playoffs this year as much as like they're going to fight to, but like they're very similar. So it's like they're both like, I want to be the starter, right? So it's like sometimes when you have that internal like fight between 2 goalies, like one of them or even both of them could maybe thrive, right? So you see with Wolf last year, it's like he didn't come in. Wolf wasn't like the starting goalie. Like he earned that, right? So it could happen for one of these guys, right? And like with Vladar, it's like he just came out of a situation where like he kind of lost that battle. So maybe he's even hungrier to win it now that he's in a new organization.
No, that's fair. I think I think they're goaltending for sure. Like I wouldn't say it got a whole lot better in the sense that like man, you have a guy that's going to steal you some games now in that sense. But I just think like having the flexibility, having that internal battle now, I think in that sense they for sure got better there. Mark, I want to ask you now, what's your offseason grade for the Philadelphia Flyers?
Yeah. I mean, overall, they brought in Vladar, re-signed York, re-signed Cates, brought in Dvorak, Zegras. Pretty good draft overall. Honestly, like I'd probably give them like an A minus, dude. In accordance to like they're not
Where
obviously
they're
making
at.
the playoffs, but it's like they filled some holes. Um, like yeah, A minus at worst B plus. I think A minus though. Like it would get even better if they could fill this Forrester hole with like a cheap plug-in. Um, in defensemen, like it's fine, kind of the way it is. It's not great, but I just think probably into the season you probably find a desperate team looking for a right-handed D to get rid of Ristolainen. But yeah, biting that bullet right now, I probably wouldn't do it, especially with all like the Rasmus Anderson rumors.
Yeah.
It's like you probably can see what actually is the like package for him. Seems like he could go in the summer. Maybe he won't, but um, like teams that miss out on Anderson might try for like a Ristolainen, right, for cheaper. So I'd probably just wait on it if I'm Philly, but I'd be open to moving him, to be honest.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna give Philly an A minus. I think when you look at their draft, I think overall they had a pretty decent draft. You got a fair bit of prospects now that could potentially be on your team within the next few years. I think the contracts they handed out were pretty good. Like you mentioned the Cam York one. I love that contract
Well,
extension.
Dvorak's AAV is absolutely awful, but it's
That
for
is.
1 year and it doesn't really matter. And even if you are trading him at the deadline, you literally can retain half and someone will take him for 2.7.
And to be honest, if I'm Philly, I'd rather be overpaying Dvorak like crazy this year and having a centerman than having to force Luchenko to be playing third line center.
Oh, 100%. You
So
have the cap space. There's no
yeah.
commitment to it. That's fine.
And
I'm so
then
happy for Dvorak, bro, to be honest, that he got 5.4 million for 1 year. Dude, the funniest thing was that I was like swiping Twitter and Friedman tweeted Dvorak Philly 1 year, 4.5 million. And I was shocked. And I refreshed it and it was like this tweet has been deleted. And then I'm like, dude, I was like, there's no way Dvorak's getting 4.5 million. That's a typo. Second later, he tweets it and he's like, it's 5.4, not 4.5. I had it backwards. And I'm like, are you serious?
there's guy thought he was hallucinating. But yeah, I'm gonna give him an A minus. I think if maybe if the Nesbitt pick went a bit different or they got him later, I'd be good. And if they had a bit more depth on their forward group, I think I'd be giving him an A in that scenario. But I'm gonna give him an A minus for now. With potentially one of the more interesting RFAs left on the market, the Minnesota Wild, they got a pretty big decision here to make with what the future of Marco Rossi is going to look like. Mark, we'll start off by talking about him with the Minnesota Wild. What do you think their game plan is here for him?
I think the whole problem is like they're not really on the same page. And that's why this
Yeah.
hasn't got done, dude. All I'm hearing right now is Rossi wants a long-term deal and Minnesota wants like there's no trade out there that intrigues them. And they want to bridge him, but Rossi does not want to bridge because he doesn't want to bridge with Minnesota at least because of his ice time, and he thinks if he's buried in the lineup, he's not going to be able to get a good payday in 2 years,
Yeah.
which honestly makes sense.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he wants a dude. So I heard he wants 7 years, 50 million, which is about 7.1 a year.
Which
Honestly, I think you could probably wiggle him down a little bit from there and get him maybe under 7, maybe 6 years. I don't think that's an insane ask for Rossi, like coming off a 40 and then 60-point season with 25 plus goals. So I know he's smaller and a lot of teams aren't really that interested in him, but he's still an effective NHL player, dude. And he's a centerman and he's young. I don't think what Rossi is really demanding, in my opinion, is insane. If I were him too, I would want a long-term deal.
Mark, I want to ask you, do you think there's a possibility we see an offer sheet here with him? Just so he like almost forces Minnesota to do something here?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is though, is like I think that like anything they would offer sheet, like they would probably match it. It's because they do have the cap space, right? So it's like if they are like kind of backed into that corner, like
Yeah.
they can match it, right? Like they still have $10 million in cap space. So I just don't think that. I think that teams just realize like it's almost like with like McTavish in Anaheim. It's like anything you probably offer sheet them, like they would match it, right?
Yeah.
Considering like even if they don't want to pay it, like they're not going to lose the player for like the picks. And it's like I honestly don't think that a team wants to give up a future 2026 first for Marco Rossi, to be quite honest with you. So I just don't see it happening.
I want to take a look now, Mark, at some of their other draft picks from over the past years and even this year's draft. They got a lot of young prospects. This year's draft, though, they didn't have much draft capital. Their first pick was the 52nd overall pick. Looking at this year's draft, how did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean they didn't have a first this year because they sent it to Columbus for David Jiricek during the season. Their first pick in the draft was a defenseman, Theodore Halsquith. I don't really think he's really something to be that optimistic about, to be honest. I don't really see him even much panning out to be like an NHLer. He's probably going to be like a depth defenseman. He is right-handed though. Maybe he does get a shot at some point, but I'm kind of thinking like a sixth defenseman at best. I'm kind of curious about their second pick, though. Adam Benak, they got in the 4th round. He's a super skilled, undersized centerman who put up over a point per game with Youngstown in the USHL this year. Pretty sure that he's going to be going to the OHL this year. He was drafted in the import draft by the Brantford Bulldogs. I don't know, dude. Like there was a group of these guys that were drafted in the 4th round that were like undersized skill guys that are very skilled, but they're just small. So teams didn't want to take them early. And I'm talking about Adam Benak. I'm talking about Cameron Schmidt. I'm talking about LJ Mooney. And I think that I'm missing someone else too. But there was a group of them taken during like a 20 pick stretch where there was even the guys like Jason Bukala, and I think Colby Armstrong and someone else was on the panel talking about. It was even like earlier in the 3rd round, they were like, all right, kind of all the guys that are taken like on my list. I think it was Cosentino as well. All the guys on my list, like that were kind of relevant or gone, like I'd be taking shots at players like these now, the Adam Benaks, the LJ Moonies, like the Cameron Schmitz. And then they ended up going like a round later than he was even talking about it. So I like this gamble a lot for Minnesota. Maybe he turns out, maybe he doesn't. He's got a ton of skill, but he's undersized. So We'll kind of see how that turns out. Liram Amidovsky for North Bay kind of had a pretty good like second half of the season. I'm kind of curious to see how he turns out. I don't really think right now he projects to be much of an NHLer. But we'll see. He did improve a lot. Well, depends probably how the next couple seasons go in accordance to development. And there are other guys like Carter Klippenstein. He's like a huge guy. So they're probably kind of drafting in accordance to see if they can potentially get like a bottom 6 guy in the late rounds. And then Justin Kipke's like an overage defenseman who played in the WHL this year and had good numbers for a defenseman, but I think he is already like 19 or 20 years old. So kind of just like another dart at the board to see if he can develop to like be an NHL player. So, I mean, for the picks they had, they did all right. I don't really love the first pick in the 2nd round, but I think they got a lot of value with that Benak pick.
Yeah, I agree with you, dude. I love him as a player. And to get a guy like that in the 4th round, I think like that we could be looking at that in a couple of years and we're like, holy, like that was the steal of the draft. Let's take a look at their lineup now, Mark, because looking at their lineup, I feel like this is a team where they have a lot of prospects that are within that like 19 to 22 years old range that could potentially be cracking the NHL lineup this season, maybe getting some opportunities. Who are some of those guys that you have in the lineup?
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of people don't realize about Minnesota is like Bill Guerin has done some like really good drafting, especially recently. Like in accordance to like probably like even 3 years ago, where he's gotten some good players that like really haven't even made an appearance in the NHL yet and are kind of starting to. I'm looking at like Liam Ogren. I mean, if you follow Minnesota, you're familiar with him. He didn't produce a lot at the NHL level last year, was sent back to Iowa. I think he's probably going to get a shot to play somewhere in the top 9. They signed, I don't know if he was their first or second round pick, Danila Yurov. He was their first round pick in 2022. He played in the KHL last year. He had a pretty solid season. And I heard with him, dude, he's either playing in the NHL or going to the KHL. So I'm pretty sure right now he's going to be given every single opportunity to make the Minnesota Wild. And I think he is probably good enough to make the team. He is a pretty skilled forward as well. He's pretty dynamic. I think he's going to make a big impact for Minnesota. We talked a lot about Marco Rossi. I mean, they don't really have the center depth to like really be trading him and not getting a center back. So I think he should be given an opportunity in the top 6 at center. But besides that, like those are like more their young forwards, I would say, unless they give someone an opportunity like Hunter Height, who scored 20 goals in the AHL last year. He was a second round pick a couple years ago, but I'm more looking at like Zeev Booyah making an impact on their defense more than anything here, even in accordance to what we were just talking about up front. I think that he's a very dynamic player. I think he's going to come in and he's got going to have a huge opportunity, to run Minnesota's first power play this year. Because as much as I do like Brock Faber, I don't really think he had the greatest kind of second half to the season. I know he was great in Four Nations, but he wasn't really that great for Minnesota down the stretch, in my opinion. Still has a ton of upside, but he also is not like your like elite power play quarterback either, right? So I think Booyah has got a huge opportunity to come in and run this power play. I've got pretty high expectations for this kid. I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out. Like, are you thinking like he could almost have like Lane Hudson type impact, like maybe a little bit less? Like they're different players, but like you can't really argue that they're not somewhat similar. Like they do like the deceptive skating moves. Hudson kind of does it differently than Booyah does, but like Booyah's also recorded high point totals at the NCAA level. Like they're both on the smaller side. Like I think isn't Booyah like 6 foot? Like he's not really that big, but he's an incredible skater, right? So I don't know. I've got really high upside for this kid, and I think right now, if I had to put like a bet on it, like he will be a finalist for the Calder. I think he will be.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's a finalist for the Calder, but I don't think he's going to have like quite the same success maybe Lane Hudson had. I think when you look at Lane last year in Montreal, like as soon as he went in, he was playing in the top 4, playing on that second, or playing, pardon me, even on the top pairing. Like I forget how many games it took for him to start running Montreal's power play, but it felt like it took about a week last year for Lane Hudson to be running their first power play without a doubt. Like,
it was longer than that, dude.
When you look at Zeev this year with Minnesota, like Minnesota's D-corps is like actually pretty decent, right? I think he's going to get opportunity for sure, but I don't think he's going to go in there and be given a crazy amount of opportunity right off the bat. I think he's for sure going to have to be earning it. Like as you mentioned, like you still got Faber, you got Spurgeon, you got Brodin there within your top 4. Like those are guys that are, if you're Minnesota, you're paying them pretty decent money, right? Like Zeev's going to have to be earning those spots over them. The one guy, Mark, I am also very interested in about is what the hell's going on with David Jiricek? Like, is this guy going to finally crack the NHL next year, do you think, or no?
Like with bringing in Booyah, I don't really think at least right away he's kind of like got a spot. Like, do you? Like, I think they kind of like Bogosian and the way he played last year. And I think that there's probably a spot for him, like on the bottom pair, like at least for right now. do you think like he's making the team as like a seventh defenseman, or like do you think he's gonna get in on the bottom pair? It's just like, do you think they're going Brodin, Faber, Middleton, Spurgeon, Buyam, Juracek, or is Juracek making the team and they're splitting up Middleton and Spurgeon, like, and Middleton's on the bottom pair with Juracek? Like, I don't know, dude. I just think I don't think that Juracek was very good when he was traded over and played with Iowa. So I'm just not necessarily thinking that they think he's ready to be a full-time NHLer. Maybe he'll get games, but I'm not convinced that he's like making the team out of camp.
See, I think if I was Minnesota, I'd break up Middleton Spurgeon. I'd go Spurgeon Bouillon on my second pairing, and then third pairing I'd go Middleton and Juracek. I just think like when you're looking at for Minnesota, they gave up a first round pick to get Juracek, right? Like they gave up a decent amount. Juracek, like we know, he pushed himself out of Columbus because he was playing in the AHL and he wanted to be up and get those opportunities. And it's like if you're Minnesota with what you gave up for Juracek, do you want to be put in kind of a similar situation to what Columbus was, where it's like you're not giving him opportunity in the NHL and he's not developing that much because he's not wanting to be in the AHL? It's like they're kind of in a not the best scenario here with him, to be honest. I don't think, at least. I don't know what the right answer is, but I think if you're Minnesota, you maybe do consider starting him in the NHL just so you are giving him the opportunity at least to win a job.
Maybe. I was just more looking at it like I just didn't think he was very good after he was traded. And it's like he already went down to the AHL after he was traded.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just kind of like get some confidence and you'll get called up kind of thing. I was more just thinking like they're allocating almost $4.5 million to Middleton. I just didn't know if they'd really be willing to put him on the bottom pair right now. But maybe they do. But my thing is like, anyways, it's like, I guess my counterpoint would be like, so I think part of the reason with Columbus was like, I'm pretty sure they told him that he could buy a house in Columbus and he didn't buy one and was maybe looking into it. And then like partway into that season, he was sent down. So I think that's why he was pissed. And I think they kind of didn't really carve out a path for him. Like my question is like, is there really a big path for him on this team until Spurgeon's contract's up anyway? Like, do you think they're going to be putting Juracek in the top four and having Spurgeon making $7.5 million on their bottom pair? Because I just don't see it.
Neither do I, to be honest. But like, that's where I'm like, hey, have Bogosian as your seventh defenseman, give Juracek opportunity there on the third pairing. And then if he has a good season, like in the off season, that's where you can maybe sit down and have that conversation where like, are you going to move off of Spurgeon? Because at that point, have 1 year left on his deal. Like teams might be interested in that, right? And then maybe like if Juracek proves himself, you can have Bouillon and Juracek there in your top four. It's definitely a tough scenario, I think, right now for Juracek in Minnesota. Like, I like the player. I think I agree with you. He did not have a great year last year. But I'm just looking at it. It's like, man, like Minnesota, you gave up a decent amount to bring him in, and it's like, if you're Juracek, do you want to be in the AHL? Looking at this NHL team, being like, I don't really see a path again to be getting within the top four and getting that opportunity, and then. I just think it could be a tough scenario if you're Minnesota with where things may be at.
Yeah, and I kind of have that question mark. Like, we don't have to get into it too much, but like even with Wallstad in net, like he was brutal last year in the AHL, and they signed him that extension early, like 2.2 times 2. The thing with that is, even though it is like a bigger cap hit, like they can still technically send him to the AHL because he hasn't hit like his waiver game limit yet, like in accordance to NHL starts. So I was kind of wondering if they were gonna go for like a cheap backup, like maybe number 3 option. I think they maybe think they signed Cal Peterson, but I mean he's been more of just like an AHL goalie recently. So I think that they're anticipating Wallsted's going to be the guy in the NHL. But I was just curious to see if they were going to consider that, considering the year that Wallsted just came off of. And we've seen it happen recently. Like Kochetkov did it for a little bit in the AHL. Spencer Knight did it for a year, right? So I was kind of curious about that. It didn't happen, obviously. Maybe if the season starts out brutal for him, it does happen. But it's a big year even for them in net, right? Like Gustafsson, he's going to be a UFA. Is Wallstead going to play and play well and show that he's a goalie of the future, and they maybe move off of Gustafsson? Are they more forced into re-signing him if Wallsted's bad? Like, we'll see what happens. I'm kind of curious to see how that pans out.
Oh, it's definitely interesting there too, because Gustafsson, the other thing with him is he had a really good year last year, but then the year before that he was not the greatest. Like Gustafsson's been pretty up and down at points, so it's going to be interesting to see what type of year he's going to have next year. And it's like how much of an opportunity will Wallstead get, and if he does get an opportunity, will he really be able to take it by the reins and prove that he is the goalie of the future? Because at a lot of points here, we've considered Wallstead to maybe be a top 3 to top 5 goalie prospect, and then he kind of had the season he did last year, and I think he really kind of slid down maybe in a lot of people's books. Mark, any other players though that are maybe kind of on the edge of making this team, not making the team, that you want to kind of talk about?
I don't really think they have a lot of guys that are like kind of depth in accordance to like making the lineup. I think they have a lot of guys pretty much penciled in. I think Marcus Johansson is probably just going to be a guy in and out of the lineup, like Nicholas Ayube, Kubel. Besides that, no, nothing really, dude. I think they still have a pretty good amount of young players that are not going to be in their lineup next year that like could be impacting their lineup like further down the road. So they're still in a pretty good position, but the lineup they're going in with, I think it's pretty much set in stone. I don't really see a guy coming out of nowhere to make this team that was not on the radar. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't really see it.
Mark, I got one last question before we get your grade here. Kirill Kaprizov, he's eligible for an extension. What do you think happens with him?
Yeah, I think I saw it was either yesterday or today that Sarah Valley reported that the talks have been going really well with Kaprizov and re-signing. So obviously I'm a little bit more optimistic hearing that. I think they will probably get it done. He kind of just seems like he'd probably sign the 8-year deal. This is like the last like little stretch here that guys can get 8-year deals too, right? So, number, honestly, I think that he, just because of like the demand for a player like him in Minnesota, I honestly think they would go Draisaitl's deal, 14 times 8.
I was going to say 13.5 to 14. I think they do. Like, the owners already pretty much come out and said, well, give him whatever he wants.
I think he would do 14 times 8.
I think you would too, for sure. Especially like considering like when you look at the way this team is, they've made the playoffs the last couple of years, and they got a decent amount of young talent that's going to come in. This is a team that's kind of up on their eyes, right? Mark, what do you give their offseason grade?
Yeah, they didn't really have like too active of an off season, to be quite honest with you. Like they haven't really done a whole lot. They did trade away Freddie Gaudreau. They brought in Tarasenko for future considerations. I don't really mind that ad, to be honest with you. Kind of a scoring winger. Like they kind of struggle to score goals sometimes. Maybe you get a good season out of Vlad Tarasenko. It's only 1 year, so I really don't mind it. They've got the cap space now that Suter and Parise's contracts, I don't think they're fully off the books, but like the cap hits the next year or two are like super low and basically irrelevant. Then the other thing, they brought back Nico Sturm. He won the cup with Florida. Kind of a nice depth center signing. So overall, I'd probably just go with like a B. They didn't really blow me away. Nothing they did that was really bad, to be honest with you. Probably could have done a little bit more at the same time. But I think there's a lot of teams where I'm looking at and could say the same thing. But that's why I just keep saying, dude, I'm saying I think there could be like a lot of trades the first 20 to 30 games of the season. Yeah. I think when some teams think they could be good and realize they're not, will start selling. And I think that's when a lot of teams will start trading for guys to plug holes.
For me, I'm gonna give them a B plus. I think when you look at their draft, getting that Benek kid in the 4th round, like I honestly think that's going to be a massive steal at some point in the future. The thing that I really am liking about Minnesota this year, I love the Tarasenko pickup, to be honest. It's like you have the cap space now. He's like it's a all right deal, and you're getting some.
He's their 4th highest paid forward. Hey,
I know it's crazy. But we saw it last year. Like when Kaprizov was injured last year, they had a bit of scoring problems at times. It's like getting Tarasenko, getting kind of like a secondary scorer. That's going to help him out a bit here. I'm really interested to see what these young guys can do with the opportunity. Like honestly, I'm a big Ogren fan. I loved his game in the AHL last year. I'd be giving him an A- if Marco Rossi was signed and they kind of had that situation figured out, but considering they don't have it figured out, I'm going to give them a B plus.
What do you think before we move on? Like, what do you think they could? Do you see them kind of finishing like wild card again, or like do you think they could maybe slip into like a top 3 in the Central? It is a hard division, but like I think they could maybe give Colorado a run for their money, like in the season.
I for sure think they could too, to be honest. Like you look at last year, they probably would have finished top 3 in the division if Kaprizov never missed that time, right? Like up until Kaprizov was out, I think they were like right behind the Jets at one point.
No, they had an unreal start, dude. They were like 14-4 or something.
If you can replicate that this year and maybe have some of these young guys take a step, I could for sure see them maybe getting in over a team like Colorado for top 3 in the division. Even maybe Dallas. Like, who knows with Dallas? They're going to have a new coach. Their decor, I'm not the biggest fan of still, to be honest. It's definitely going to be interesting to see where Minnesota finishes. Like, do you think they're a wild card team, or do you think they could get in?
I think they're probably either like a wild card 1 again, or like the 3rd place team in the Central. Yeah. I don't know if they could like win the division, to be quite honest, but I'm also like kind of curious to see like if Winnipeg is the exact same, or if they maybe fall off a bit. They don't have Ehlers anymore, right? Does Hellebuck have like an insane year again? Like I don't know. We'll see. It could be a little bit more open than like you think in the Central, but like there's still like it's still like an incredible division.
Let's go out west and take a look at the Vancouver Canucks. They may have been the most surprising team so far this offseason. It all starts with re-signing Brock Besser to a 7-year deal at just over $7 million. Who would have thought that 2 months ago? Mark, were you surprised at all by that signing?
Oh, yeah. Dude, I did not expect it like whatsoever. I thought once he hit market, dude, did you see like right after the season ended, there was like, he was like coming out of like the where they park, and someone took a picture with him, and in the background in the car was like a Canucks jersey of like every person on the team signing the jersey. That just made you think that he was leaving the team.
Well, you had that. You also had the rumors at trade deadline that he was wanting a long-term deal, and Vancouver wasn't going to give him like a $7 million deal. So I was looking at him like, okay, like Vancouver's not going to want him to give him that deal. You're going to have some team out there that will. Like he's an American. He probably wants to play in America. Like I thought there was no doubt in my mind that he was going to probably sign a 7-year deal at $8 million with some American team. Who would have thought that he'd be going back to Vancouver for 7 years at 7.25? Like that was fully surprising by me. I want to talk about some other extensions, Mark. Thatcher Demko, he got a 3-year extension. It doesn't kick in until after next season. That's at 8.25. How did you feel about that extension?
Dude, that's another like Vancouver was like the most shocking team in the offseason. I felt
And it
like
also
like
was in a good way.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about them. I mean, I wasn't shocked in the sense. Remember the day before it happened, I was like, "Bro, Kane's going to Vancouver." I was like, they should trade him for Demko, and then he ended up going for like a fourth round pick or whatever. But dude, the one thing that's crazy to me is why are they doing this with Demko like now?
Yeah, that's
Like they don't even. They're saying like, "Oh, he's practicing like he's healthy." Like I don't know, dude. Like, give me like 30 games in a row where this guy's like healthy first before I'm committing this money to him, dude. Like, that's a hefty cap hit. I get it's only 3 years, but you're going to be allocating like what $14 million to your goaltending. I do think if it's healthy, it is a good tandem. To be honest with you, I think like they could be a good tandem, and like, but. And it's not like if Demko is injured, like I think Lankin improved last year, like he could be a solid option, but I don't think he's a starting goalie, right? So I don't know, because my question is like, okay, say they went into this season and Demko was healthy, they didn't sign this contract, like say like 30 games goes by, like the Canucks are third in their division, Demko's started 20 games, he's playing good. And they were like, let's resign. How much more money realistically would he get?
maybe 250,000. Like
Well, I was gonna say like maybe he's asking like 9.5 by like 5 or 6.
And I think if he asks for 9.5 at that, you tell him to kick rocks.
But like, would you though? Even if he was, say he was like a top 5 to 10 goalie in the league, like 30, 40 games into the season, and he's like fully healthy and not playing well. My thing is that I'm not saying that this isn't going to work out. It really just is. It has a huge dependent on his health.
Yeah.
Because even when he's been playing, when he's not that healthy, he hasn't been good, but when he's healthy, he's very good. So my thing is like, what's the risk in like, why won't you just be like, okay, let's give him the 30 games, make sure he's actually healthy, and at worst, it's going to cost us another like $1 million for us to wait. You know what I mean? I just don't understand the risk in doing this now if you're going to do it, is what I'm saying. Like, I think you could have just waited until November or December, made sure he's good, and at worst, you're giving him $9.5 million instead of 8.5 by like 4 or 5 years or something. Like I just don't understand the risk in doing it right now when there's still question marks about him.
I for sure agree with you. I think it's a massive risk, and I think Vancouver, you're seeing with them, like they're doubling down on it now as well. Like they just traded Seelovs, who's in the AHL. He had a really good year in the AHL last year, helped bring Abbotsford to winning the Calder Cup, right? Like it's like, so they get rid of him now. So it's like if Demko is injured, it's like you don't even really have like a backup option now. It's
well, like, Lankinen, but like I mean, Seelovs is gone. The problem with him was that he was not waiver. He wouldn't go through waivers, right? So they had to get rid of him, right? My thing with the Demko deal is it's not long term. I get that, but when I look at this deal, I just don't look at it and I'm like, there's major upside in this deal.
Yeah.
Like I'm either going to be like, he's worth the contract or this is terrible and they shouldn't have signed him to this because he's always injured. That's the way I'm kind of looking at it. I don't think I'm ever going to look at this and be like, dude, Demko's fucking like he should be making $11 million. Like, I'm just not sure I see that right now, unless he is fully healthy and gets back to form and is a Vezina finalist once again. But I'm not really betting on that happening right now.
It was definitely a confusing contract that Demko won. I want to take a look at their draft now, Mark. I think I love who they took, this Braden Coots kid with their first round pick, 15th overall. How do you feel about him though in their draft overall?
I'm not really that happy about their draft. I'd say like I'm kind of just like more in like the neutral area with it. Like Braden Coots is a good player and he is like a Like he's kind of like a feisty, gritty player.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's got like super high end skill where he's going to be producing a ton of points at the NHL level. I think there is a possibility he is like a second line center, but he could be like also a third line center. I just probably, to be honest with you, I'm just more looking at it. It's like, yes, I do like the pick, but I had him going a couple spots later, but I would have honestly preferred to pick like Victor Eklund if I was them. Like they're so known with having Swedes anyway. I think it would have fit nice on like I just think realistically, like it's like, okay, I know you have Besser, I know you have Lekkerimäki. I just think realistically, like Lekkerimäki's such a good goal scorer that I feel like he could get like used to playing his off wing. You know what I mean? So it's like that wouldn't really bother me like drafting Victor Eklund, I guess. And you already have like DeBrusk there anyway too, who's left-handed. So it's not like you're going to be going in with like your top 6 wings are all like right-handed, right? So I just don't think they got the best player available, but I also don't think it was like a huge reach. Like he was kind of projected like mid to like late first round, but also like centers are in demand. So I kind of get the pick. He's been playing in Seattle, right, which is not far from Vancouver. At the same time, a lot of their other picks, like I mean, Wilson Bjork is like an overage forward playing in Sweden's junior league this year. He produced quite a bit, but I mean, he is an overage forward. That's kind of why he went late, but he did have a good season. I really like their second round pick though. Goalie Alexei Medvedev from London in the OHL. He wasn't London's starting goalie this year. Didn't play at all in the playoffs because Austin Elliott was starting. But I think this kid's got some pretty good upside. The thing with him, too, is he's born on September 10th, 2007. He's like 6 days away from being an 06 draft pick. He signed his ELC right away with Vancouver, too, which indicates to me that he's going to be London's starting goalie for the next 2 years. Yeah. He's got like a 6'2" frame. He's pretty – I watched him play at like the OHL All-Star game in January, and like he's got a very calm style. He kind of lets the game come to him. I kind of like him as a goalie prospect, and I get like them looking at the upside of like, dude, this guy's close to being even like a 2026 pick. So it's like, just let this guy, give him time, develop. Like he'll probably even go to the A for quite a bit, but I honestly see him as like a future NHL goalie. It depends what his upside really is, but I like the gamble in the second round. I think he was kind of some people had him as like they were debating going after Ravensburgen just because of the raw upside of how young he is too. Like we talked about it with Schaefer, but it's like you're having a guy who is basically a top 5 goalie prospect on like everyone's list, but like you're looking at the upside that he's like sometimes months younger than some of these other guys. So I really like that pickup for Vancouver for like a future goalie, maybe 5-6 years down the line, let him develop properly. So I don't know. I think their draft overall, I'd probably give it like a B. I don't think they really got like any snags, but I think they had like a solid draft. And I know I'm probably going to say that a lot throughout a B, but there's nothing really overwhelming. There's going to be teams that won. There's going to be a couple teams I'll talk about eventually that did terrible. So I just think they had a pretty like average draft. Like they got a couple good players, but like I don't think they really got any steals.
Yeah, just kind of where you want to be, I guess. Like I'm looking at it that way as well. I don't think they got any steals, but I don't think they also like had a pick where it's like, oh wow, like that was a surprising pick or that was a reach, which is kind of a good thing. Taking a look at their lineup now, Mark. I have no clue how I feel about Vancouver, to be honest, dude. Like this is a team that,
dude, I totally agree with you.
2 years ago, this was a team that was in the playoffs. We were talking about this team. Oh, look how good they are. They're on the up and up. Last year, they had the year that they had. Part of me thinks they got a little bit better, but part of me is also like who. There's a lot of question marks, right? It's like first of all, what the fuck are you going to be getting from Evander Kane? I have no clue.
Yeah.
I think Evander Kane's a massive wild card. I think if he's playing where we have him slotted in on the first line with Pettersson, Brock Besser, right? Like, dude, I feel like that could be a line where either they're going to be really good together or it's going to be a complete nightmare and there's going to be no in between whatsoever. Like, if you can get Pedersen and Kane going, I think Vancouver, like that could potentially be very good for them. But if you can't get them going, you're paying Kane $5 million. Like, you're not really going to be able to move off of that unless you're retaining 50%. But at that point, like that means Vancouver's like way out of the playoffs, and they're kind of selling. The other thing I think is going to be interesting with Vancouver is like what's Lekkerimäki going to be, what's Atu Ratti going to be this year. I think those two guys, like if they have good years, that can be very intriguing. That can be a big boost to Vancouver and their kind of secondary scoring that they maybe lack a bit at times. I like Marcus Pedersen. I think on their right hand side though, massive hole after Hronek. How do you feel about this team though?
Yeah, like I'm not. I don't know how I feel in accordance to like if they're better than last year. Like I don't really know. I think they brought in Kane thinking they weren't going to re-sign Besser, to be quite honest. But now they have both. The thing is, it's like I don't mind the wings like Kane, DeBrusque, Garland, Besser. Like it's not terrible. But I'm also looking at this team, dude, and a very likely scenario is you are a Philip Hedl injury away from either Atu Ratu or Teddy Bluger being your second line center.
Yep.
I think losing Pius Suter is a way bigger deal than people are making it out to be. A guy who had almost 25 goals last year. I'm more looking at the Kane addition as a negative, considering if you're bringing in Evander Kane for Pius Suter, I don't like that because they weren't even deep on center to begin with, losing JT Miller. Now that you're bringing in another winger and you're losing Pius Suter, which they could have re-signed him probably, considering Kane makes more money than Pius Suter. So that's one move that I don't really like, to be quite honest with you. But it's crazy. Like the division they're in is not good. I could see a situation where they get in the playoffs because their goaltending is pretty good if it's healthy. Quinn Hughes is unbelievable and can help carry them to the playoffs. And you're right, like as Lekkerimäki, Ratu, like I could see their wingers scoring some goals. Maybe Pedersen turns it around, but maybe they have a brutal season. But if I had to put money on it right now, I'm going to say they're not going to make the playoffs again and be pretty close to getting in because of their center depth, to be quite honest. And I think it's likely at some point that Philip Hedl is going to be injured and that they're going to be in a situation. And I saw something today that because they don't have like any cap space, they have $795,000. I saw today that they're looking to ship out either Dakota Joshua or Teddy Bluger to free up cap space. And I'm like, dude, they're going to ship out another center? They just lost two centers in the past like 4 months.
Well, I don't know what you're getting for cheaper than Teddy Bluger. He's making 1.8 mil. Like,
I know.
Realistically, like you're not like even Dakota Joshua, like yeah, you maybe could save cap space, but he's making 3.2 mil. Like if you're to send Joshua out, like that means you're basically signing somebody for maybe 2 million and you're saving $1 million of cap space for somewhere else. Like it's definitely interesting for me, Vancouver and what they're going to be next year, because I have no clue. This is the biggest
right now. I would guess I'm going to say they're going to come 10th in the West. That's going to be my guess.
You think they're going to be that low?
Yeah, like I think that I just think they're going to miss the playoffs because they still have some holes. And like I don't know about Demko. That's only like the second team to miss the playoffs.
I guess, yeah. I was looking at it the wrong way on my standings.
But it's like I could also see a scenario where they got in. Like could you not honestly see this year? Like I don't think it's gonna happen, but like let's be real, like crazy shit happens. Like what if LA missed and Vancouver got in? Like and took that 3 spot, almost like the Devils took that 3 spot this year in the Metro, and they weren't really that good. And like Ottawa was a wild card team, they would have been that third Metro team if they were in that division. Like I could see a situation where the third team in the Pacific is shit. and it's like almost just a battle for the last spot between like LA and Vancouver. Like that's why I'm almost like I could see Vancouver getting in the playoffs, but I could see them being worse than like the wild card team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head there, dude. I think
Like, what if Minnesota is wild card 1 and Vancouver slots into that third Pacific? Like, I'd probably take Minnesota in a series, to be quite honest.
oh, even Utah, dude. I think Utah, like, it'd be a bit closer, but I think would be a pretty close discussion between Utah and Vancouver, and Utah might like just miss the playoffs or might just get in on that second wild card. Yeah, I'm gonna say Vancouver misses the playoffs, though. I just think, like, as you mentioned, you're a Filipino injury away from kind of being absolutely fucked. And you also got a lot of question marks with Thatcher Demko and some of these other younger players in this lineup. Like, even Elias Pettersson, like, let's not act like he's not a question mark, right? Like, you don't really know what you're going to be getting from him next year. So I'm going to say they miss the playoffs. Mark, what do you give them, though, for an offseason grade?
Oh, dude. Their draft. Those extensions. I'm going to go with a C.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the only things I really liked that they did, like, I think that Besser contract, I don't really look at that as a negative. I think that's totally fine money. And then I like the Garland extension.
I love it.
6x6. I think it's really good. But like, see, a lot of their shit they did doesn't even kick in until the next year. Because Demko's I don't really like. I don't like bringing in Kane to replace P.S. Suter. And I just think they have a huge hole at center, and their draft was kind of average. So, but I think their offseason in specific, it's like but like a combination of the draft and offseason, I'd say is a C. Their offseason in just specific, probably like a C minus.
Yeah, for me, I think I'm going to go C minus as well. I like the Besser extension, or pardon me, the Besser signing, I guess. Garland extension, I love. The Demko one for me makes like not too much sense. Kane trade, I really like. You need a centerman, right? You need a centerman. I would have preferred to see them sort of address that need. I think. Look, I think my biggest issue with Vancouver and their offseason is you got Quinn Hughes for two. You got Quinn Hughes for 2 more years, right? You gotta pick a direction. Like it feels like for me they're not picking a direction. They're just like continuing down this.
But this is the story of the Vancouver Canucks.
I know, but you'd think maybe it would change after fucking 10, 15, 20 years, right? Like
they don't want to be bad, and they see talent, and they're trying to make Quinn Hughes as happy as possible, trying to re-sign some of his guys. Like he loves Brock Besser, right? Like they're trying to get guys he's familiar with. And like, even I honestly think too, like the Adam Foote coaching hiring has somewhat to do with Quinn Hughes. He's the defensive coach. He loves playing for him. I think the moves they are making, like even re-signing Demko and Garland, like as much as like everyone's talking about like Quinn Hughes could leave, when's he going to New Jersey and all that, like he seems like he loves a lot of the guys on the Canucks. Like, and I don't think that's not true for at all, right? So they're trying to make him as happy as possible, but I agree. It's like there's no like certain direction. But to be honest with you, I'm just at the point where I know they're like this, and I know it's like they're never going to give up. They'll keep fighting. Their GM or whatever the hell Rutherford's title is, he's basically running the team, not even as the GM, but he's not going to like go through a rebuild here, dude. I don't think for 1 second. So that makes me think they're just going to try and get better as they see fit.
See, I agree with that. Like, if you don't want to go through a rebuild, I'm not saying they should be going through a rebuild either. I just think it's like they made some of the moves they made. It feels like it's teams. Like it feels like it's moves that teams that are going through a rebuild would make. And then some of the moves they made, it's like, okay, no, they like bringing back Brock Besser, re-signing Garland. It's like, okay, you are a team that's like actually wanting to improve, wanting to win. You bring in Kane and you're not getting any fucking like anything to come with them. You're just taking him on, and you're not getting any asset in return.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's because they didn't think they were getting Brock Besser.
Even if you're losing Brock Besser, though, like I still think you should be getting some sort of asset to bring on that Kane contract.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. There's no way you should be giving up a 4th-round pick to a division rival.
And then even the Demko extension, like there's not much upside, pretty significant downside, but it's like they got way too much way too much money tied up in their goalies.
Like, yeah, it's going to be $14 million after next season.
They're not going to be able to improve their team if you have that much. You know what I mean?
Do you not believe that? See, I think now the direction they've gone in, I probably wouldn't have chosen the same direction, but I'm all more the opinion now that they should be going out and trading Kevin Lankinen for someone.
But they just,
now that they've made this commitment to Demko, I think they should have kept Seelovs, put him in the NHL with Demko, and then use Lankinen to a team that's desperate to get someone. Dude, regardless if it's a center or you want another top 4D or what.
I'm all with you on that. I think even if it was Demko and they traded Demko and they improved their team somehow and they kept Lankinen, like I would have been all right with that. I just think it's like now you're in a tough scenario where you're paying 2 goalies a lot of money. You had a goalie that was very cheap, just had a very impressive year in the AHL. So they should have kept Seelovs, seen what he could have provided in the NHL, and traded Demko or Lankinen and improved your seen what you could have gotten back to improve your team, but also B, you would have been saving a lot of money trading one of those two. Like you would have been saving nearly $5 million. So, like, hey, maybe you could have gone out, spent that money on Mikael Granlund, try to bring him in.
Well, they were apparently a team that fought for Dvorak. I think they were the one that offered him a 3-year deal at more. Like it was the total money in the deal was more than the 5.4. So I don't know if it was like a 3x3 or what it was, and they missed out on him. But yeah, like thinking about it, if you took out Lankinen and had that money, like you could have Pius Suter got $4.1 million. Like yeah. I think that's a good deal for St. Louis. Like I think he's gonna fit in there nice. Like he's gonna get opportunities. Like he scored 20+ goals. Like he was kind of an underrated player that wasn't talked about a lot last year, just because Vancouver had so many negatives around their team, right? So I just think it's gonna be a way bigger loss than people realize, because I think he's like a pretty solid 3rd-line center. Like he's proved over the last couple of years, and I think he was one of the better centers available in the market.
Yeah, I think he was probably the second best centerman on the market. Like when we actually hit July 1st. Overall, though, that's gonna wrap up today's episode. We went through 4 teams, so we got 8 done so far on the summer. We're gonna be going through all 32. We have no clue what teams we're gonna be doing next week, so if you guys have any teams that you want us to go through that we haven't done already, just put down in the comments and we'll try to get to them next week. But for everybody tuning in, thanks for tuning in.